Okay, so chapter 7.6 is factoring. So same thing for chapter 7.5, except harder, because now you have a number in front of your x squared. So you have a coefficient, all right? I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? The way that your book does it, this is from your book, right, is, let's see, there we go, all right? Like right here, it says 2w squared. So you have not, just w squared by itself. You have 2w squared. The way that this breaks it down is that you have to have this whole table and do like just a guess and check, basically. Like, does this work? And then you FOIL it out and see if it works. No. You try all these different things to finally be like, oh, hooray, this one works. And then that's how you find your answer, okay? Same thing with this side of the page, right? You make your tables, you guess and check and see which ones are possible. We're not doing any of that, okay? No, thank you. Instead, what we're gonna do is an old school thing that I learned called borrowing from the clouds. Okay, so we're gonna borrow from the clouds. I can't even find this online anymore. This was from my 8th grade math teacher, Mr. Slater, so shout out to him, okay? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with a really easy one, okay? 5x squared plus 11x plus 2, okay? There is no way for me to take out this 5 from 11 and 2, right? I can't just pull it out and like leave that 5 out. I have to have that 5x. So I now have an a coefficient in front of my x squared. Here's what you do, okay? You don't panic, and you're going to borrow from the clouds. You're gonna take your 5, whatever this number is in front of your x squared, and you're gonna multiply it by whatever your c is, okay? So this is where we're borrowing. We're borrowing from the clouds. We're borrowing the times 5 from the cloud. And we're gonna replace our c, okay? So I'm replacing it. I'm going 5x squared, nothing changed there, plus 11x, nothing changed there. But now I'm replacing my c. 5 times 2, okay, is 10. Sweet. Now I'm going to set up my factors, okay? And in both of my factors, I'm gonna start with 5x. Okay, if you're thinking to yourself, but dear God, you're wrong because 5 times 5 is 25, and so this whole thing is not gonna work, just bear with me, okay? So we're gonna start with 5x, whatever this a is, right? Whatever this coefficient, a. You're gonna put that here, ax times ax, all right? And then we're gonna factor like normal, okay? So we're gonna look for factors of 10 that give me a sum of 11 because both these are positive, right? So these are both positive, which means both of these factored terms have to be positive, and then I can write out my terms, factors of 10. I have 1 and 10, I have 2 and 5, and that's it. 1 plus 10 is 11, hooray. 2 plus 5 is 7, that won't work. So I'm gonna use 1 and 10. Okay? Now, obviously, this will not FOIL out to our starting equation because something's gone wrong, right? So we still have borrowed this 5 from the clouds, but it's called borrowing from the clouds. It's not called stealing from the clouds. So whatever number I borrowed, I have to give it back. So I multiplied by 5 to get my new c. Well, now I'm gonna divide by 5. Okay? This is the easiest case because I can just, you look, okay? This one I cannot divide both of these terms by 5, okay? Because I have 1. I'm not gonna have plus 1/5. No, thank you. But look right here, I've got 5x and I've got plus 10. Those are both divisible by 5. So I'm gonna take the 5 out of just this parentheses term, okay? And I get 5x plus 1 times x plus 2. And that's it. That's how you borrow from the clouds. We could double check our work, which I always think you should. Okay, so you FOIL first, outside, inside, last. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 2 is plus 10x. 1 times x is plus 1x. 1 times 2 is plus 2. Combine like terms and you get 5x squared plus 11x plus 2. What do you know? It's exactly what we started with, okay? So we're gonna borrow from the clouds so we don't have to do that terrible table situation, okay? I have 5 more examples to go through and they get increasingly harder as we go along, okay? But right here, if I measured this right, okay? Here's our basic rules that we're gonna follow from our easiest problem, okay? So we'll just leave those off to the side. All right. Problem number 2, okay? I have a number in front of my coefficient. I can't move it, so I'm gonna go times 3. I'm borrowing from the clouds. 3 was my A. I'm gonna multiply by my C term, right? And here's all those little steps. So I'm still gonna have 3x squared plus 16x, but now I have plus 15. Now I'm going to make my factors. Both of them are gonna start with 3x. These are both still positive because this is the easy problems. Factors of 15 that add up to 16, that's obviously 15 and 1. Now I borrowed 3. I have to give it back, okay? In this parentheses, in this factor, both of these terms are divisible by 3, so that makes it easy. X plus 5 times 3x plus 1. That's our answer. If we FOIL it out, okay, you get x times 3x, 3x squared. X times 1 plus x. 5 times 3x is plus 15x. And 5 times 1 is plus 5. So I would get 3x squared plus 16x plus 5. Hooray, hooray. It's a lot easier than making a whole bunch of tables, okay? All right, slightly harder because now we have a negative. All right, so we have negative c. Same process though, all right? We're gonna borrow 3 from the clouds. So I rewrite this, 3n squared plus 5n minus 3 times 2, 6. Set up my factors. 3n times 3n. I've got a negative here, okay? So I have to have one positive and one negative because a positive times a negative is a negative. So what are factors of 6 that give me a difference of 5? Well, I have 6 and 1, or I have 2 and 3. And since I'm subtracting, it has to be 6 and 1. Okay, those are my factors. I'm going to do it the exact same way. Right, these rules from before, I'm gonna do it the exact same way. If my C is negative, right? And right here, my B is positive. So I need my bigger number, my bigger factor goes with the positive part. So I should have plus 6 minus 1. We're gonna see if this works, okay? I borrowed 3. I have to give it back. So 3 divided by 3 is just 1n, plus 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3n minus 1. Okay, so this hopefully should be our answer, but let's double check. So we're just gonna practice more foiling. First, outside, inside, last. N times 3n. 3n squared. N times negative 1 is just negative n. 2 times 3n is plus 6n. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Combine your like terms. 3n squared. Negative n plus 6n is plus 5n minus 2. It works. Huzzah. Next question. Okay, we're halfway done. Pick up the page. Here we go. All right. borrow from your clouds. We're gonna multiply by 6. Rewrite your equation. 6x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay? Start both of your factors with plus 6. Now if c is a positive, your c term, right, your constant is a positive, but this is a negative, your b is a negative. That means both of these have to be negative. Okay? So these two things need to add up to 5, but multiply together to 6. So this has to be 2 and 3. And if I'm moving too fast, you can always write out, what are your factors of 6? You've got 1 and 6. You've got 2 and 3. And you can figure out, which two things added together are going to give you 5. Cool, cool. This is where it gets, trickier. Because you borrowed 6, you need to divide by 6. But if you notice, now I don't have either one of these quantities that's completely divisible by 6. So I'm actually going to need to break up the 6. Okay, I still need to give back the divided by 6. I can't just keep it the way it is, because then I'm not getting the correct answer. I borrowed 6, I've got to give it back. But I'm gonna do it in 2 parts, okay? So this side, I can divide by 2, and this side, I can divide by 3. Now, if I multiply 2 and 3 together, then that's 6. So overall, I am dividing the whole thing by 6. I'm just doing it in 2 different parts, okay? Versus everything else we've done so far, right? You only needed to divide by the one quantity from the number you borrowed from the clouds. Now you have to do it in 2 separate parts, okay? Hopefully not too confusing. So 6x divided by 2 would be 3x minus 1, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 6x divided by 3 is 2x minus 1. So this should be our answer. And we can double check. FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times negative 1 minus 3x. Negative 1 times positive 2 minus 2x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Combine like terms, 6x squared minus 5x plus 1. Even though it's tricky, it still works. Okay? And we are following all of these steps, right? So this is the step 4. Divide out the number you borrowed from the clouds. Sometimes you just need to do this step in multiple parts. Okay, almost done. All right, so borrow from your clouds, multiply by 4, replace your c, 4x squared plus 4x minus 12. Okay, set up your factors. They both start with 4x. This is negative, your c is negative, so I know I'm gonna have 1 positive and 1 negative, which means I'm gonna subtract these numbers to get me a sum of 4, or a difference of 4, right? Because one's positive, one's negative. So factors of 12 that subtract out to 4. I've got 1 and 12, that won't work. I've got 2 and 6, that will work. I need positive 6 and negative 2, because 6 minus 2 is positive 4. Okay? Now, kind of same thing here, right? I borrowed 4 from the clouds. I need to divide by 4 to give it back, but I have to do it in multiple pieces. So I'm going to divide this quantity by 2 and divide that quantity by 2. Overall, I'm still giving back the 4 I borrowed. I'm just doing it in 2 parts. So I should get 2x plus 3 times the quantity of 2x minus 1. Okay, should we FOIL it out? 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 1. First, outside, inside, last. 4x squared minus 2x plus 6x minus 3. Combine like terms, and you do, in fact, get what you started with, 4x squared plus 4x minus 3. Okay, last problem. And sometimes they throw tricks at you like this, all right? You might be feeling so good with borrowing from the clouds that you're just like, I'm gonna multiply by 8 right away. Don't do that, okay? Because sometimes they will throw questions at you where all of these have a number that you can pull out, and which is nice because then you have a smaller number to deal with everything else, okay? So for 8, 36, and 20, 4 goes into all of them. So I'm gonna pull out a 4 from each one, which means I'm dividing by 4 here, dividing by 4 here, and dividing by 4 here. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, so I have 2x squared. 36 divided by 4 is a number. Is 9, okay. I don't know where my brain went. 2x squared minus 9x, good Lord. And 20 divided by 4 is 5, so minus 5. Okay, so now I'm working with this. I've already pulled out my 4, and now I'm gonna further factor down this part, okay? So I'm gonna put this kind of close. Times 2, okay? I only need to borrow 2 from the clouds and not 8 from the clouds, which is nicer, okay? So then I'll rewrite this. I still have my 4, then I have 2x squared minus 9x minus times 2, it's negative 10. You still have your 4. Set up your factors here. Okay, so I need, this is negative, so I have a positive and a negative, and I need factors of 10 that will subtract to 9. So negative 10 and positive 1, minus 10 plus 1. All right, and then I borrowed 2. I've got to give back my 2. This quantity is divisible by 2. So I will have 4 times the quantity of 2x plus 1 times the quantity of x minus 5. And this should be my horrible answer, okay? Not horrible, it's pretty great. And if we wanted to, we could always double check and FOIL it out. To double check we got the right thing. So here's what I would do. You're gonna FOIL first, outside, inside, last. You still have that 4 times the stuff we're doing. 2x squared minus 10x plus x minus 5. Then distribute your 4 to all your terms. So I have 8x squared minus, didn't even combine like terms, so 10x plus x would be minus 9x. 4 times negative 9x would be negative 36x, because apparently I don't remember that 9 times 4 is 36, and 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Woo! Okay, so that checks out, this checks out. That's the basic thing of borrowing from the clouds. All right.